right, we're back in the saddle. Talking about fair, unfair, dropping that F-bomb, fair, inequity, aversion to equity, aversion to getting less, not wanting to be seen as unfair, and not caring at all. We got it queued up, huh, Dutch?
Yeah, I tell you, you're before the break, you had the example with the East and the West, and especially politically, when you're talking about negotiating. You use Russia. You can go back to, the different
North
conflicts.
Korea, Iran,
throughout history. When you look at the conflicts throughout history, and you look at how America, at least publicly, we're not going to get into a debate about what was going on behind the scenes, but at least publicly, always wanted to seem like we're following the rules. When you're talking about the rules of engagement, we always want to be the ones seen as the ones who are following it, even when we knew our opponents, for lack of a better term, in the conflict were not.
Right.
We always tried to stick to this image. When you're talking about following the rules from conventions, Geneva Convention, different things like that, we always wanted to do our best to comply with that. Again, then we're not talking about privately. We know we can get into a whole discussion about that. But having that image as being important to us as a people, as a nation.
Well, and that's key. It's image. It's image. That's exactly. We want to be seen as that, and that's the same thing on the individual level. We want to be seen. It doesn't matter what happens behind. We're always going to grab the big piece. The human machine's going to grab the big piece if they're by themselves.
And to your point, the other culture that we were in conflict with had no concept of that and had no desire to be seen as anything other than we're going to do whatever we want. We're going to completely defy what's fair. As if there was a completely different culture, which we're
going to get the same. We're going to get our deal, or nobody's going to get anything. That's in their mind. That's fair.
Absolutely. So just the politics of that, and just thinking about that.
Right.
How we as a nation and we as a people.
Well, this is what happened in Vietnam, man. We're over there trying to do the truth thing. Ho Chi Minh didn't care one little thing about seeming fair, and then we're shocked. We're like, I don't know what's going on, because it's so part of our public life. Like you said, that's our reputation, our image, it's self-image, that we never want to be seen as unfair.
And we would not deviate from that, even when we had every right to. And not just that conflict, but all conflicts, it seemed like, even when we had the right, when everyone else knew that the others were doing it, we still tried our best to stick to that.
And so does the individual. We never want to. That's why I say dropping the F-bomb. It's literally a bomb. It's like carpet bombing somebody to brand them with not being fair. It's a nuclear strike. It's like one of the worst things that you could ever say about anybody in sociology, because what we're doing is, what I'm saying to you, Dutch, is I'm fixing. The Amish have this thing. My mom and dad were they're from Pennsylvania. They call it the Pennsylvania Dutch. Oh, you're right. You're in Amish country, dude. What are you talking? You know, they have a thing called shunning, and it's real. They don't say your name. They don't look at you, and you're out of the community. They shun you. This is like our version of that. Like, if to be branded as unfair is like getting shunned from society at large. And it's very, very lonely, because now it's massive rejection. It's rejection. You're risking rejection on a massive scale.
I met one today that was shunned, and he explained his experience. So this is some very real stuff. That's a very real example. And, it's amazing. Even when you said nuclear, you used that term nuclear. If you go back to when we had to use nuclear weapons, we had to use the bomb, unfortunately, on Japan.
Right.
Even though a lot of people felt it was justified based on what happened to us, we were still very apologetic about it. Even to this day, we feel horrible about taking that advantage and using that advantage. Even after, at the time, we felt very wrong in our own sense, right? We still, to this day, are apologizing for that. And some people disagree with the fact of apologizing, but it's still there, and it still happens. Like, we still almost regret it without regretting it. You know what I mean? It's like we're like, we had to do what we had to do, but man, we feel horrible about it.
Nobody should like doing it, right? I mean, we shouldn't.
Right.
And what kind? Because here's the psychology. Because what kind of person are you, Dutch, if you like to do that?
But think about the other cultures that we're using this cultural comparison.
Right.
Have they ever felt horrible about what they've done in war?
No, they're not. No, they don't feel. They started it. They bombed Pearl Harbor. They didn't feel bad about that. They saw it as they had to get to their target. It had to be done, and And listen, this is just how it is. It's how the human machine works. I'm not judging what's right and what's wrong. I'm just saying what is.
Right, and it's just interesting looking at the dynamics involved. You have people who use babies as bombs, right, as vehicles to transport bombs, and you're going to blow the baby up, and they don't regret it one bit. But we regret having to deal with those people because we know that we may have to defend ourselves by killing a baby.
Right, and when we deal with them, we want to do it in the most fair way possible. Even when dealing with, mass murderers, we want to do it in the most fair way possible.
And even when there's no other way, we actually will feel the pain of having to do it the quote unquote incorrect way because there was no other way. We still, even when we convince ourselves that there was no other way, we still have that pain and that remorse for having to do that. Right, because
that's how we've been brought. So no one ever wants to be seen. So now here's the question. And then knowing that, here's the question: how can we use that to our advantage? How can you use it to your advantage? See, this is the question I was. So these are the facts, right? This is what we talked about in one of our coaching calls this week. We must recognize facts. We must acknowledge facts. Then we must evaluate facts. When facts come in front of us, we have to recognize them. We don't want to deny them. Denying is lying. So we recognize the facts. Then we acknowledge these facts. This is what it is. Yes, I acknowledge this is what it is, and then I evaluate it. And here's my evaluation: is how can I use this how can this benefit me? And I'll tell you what, there's people in this audience right now that's when I say those words, how can I use this to my advantage? They're already going, that ain't right. That's not fair. And exactly. But every human being will take the big piece if they're by themselves and no one can see them taking the big piece. So it just is what it is.
Right.
So stop acting like I'm bad because I said, how could I use this to my advantage, right? Stop it. Because you would have took the big piece too if no one was looking. Because no one wants to be seen as unfair. No one wants to be seen as unfair. We are unfair, and we don't care one thing about fairness if we're on the short end of the stick or if somebody's not around. The only time we care about being seen as fair is when there is social pressure.
Mm-hmm. Others are watching.
That's it. That's the only time.
That's it. That's interesting. It's real. How would we? It's interesting if a study would be done where someone is not being watched, but they are being watched. They're being secretly watched.
There was like a movie about that, wasn't it? I mean, there was like a TV show.
Was that
something about Ed or something? I don't know.
I think I just had it. I think I had it in my head what you're talking about. I can't think of it now. Right, so we can hit us up on Twitter. But because that's one way to reveal to people that what we're saying beyond the data and the evidence here with these studies, that would be like an extreme icing on the cake there. If you had a study that showed that people that were being recorded that weren't aware they're being recorded.
Right. Which I think is illegal in 39 states.
Yes, absolutely.
But there's another paper that was published. It's called Theories of Fairness and Reciprocity. Theories of Fairness and Reciprocity. It was by Ernst Fair and Klaus Schmidt out of the University of Zurich and the University of Munich. And I mean, their paper it's long. Okay, so and I went through the whole thing, and they it's like an aggregate of 50 other studies. But what they found out is that fair-minded people who identify as I'm fair-minded, right? So that's even Western culture. We like to be fair-minded. Will act selfishly in a certain context when there's nobody around. They'll act selfishly. And somebody who is selfish, they're completely selfish, will act fair-minded in certain contexts.
Oh.
But in their mind, being fair-minded is pull the green handle, everybody gets nothing.
Oh, that's the kicker. Okay.
You get nothing. Now, look, I see that disadvantageous inequity aversion in our society, and I'll say it with the younger generation. Do you remember when we did a show on millennials a couple months ago?
Yes.
And they thought it wasn't fair that they had to wear dress shoes and this one person got to wear running shoes. So we want that and then they fired the whole bunch of interns.
Mm-hmm.
They would rather nobody. And then they found out that was a person who was like a veteran. She lost her leg in Iraq and was wearing a prosthetic leg with a fake running shoe on it. The foot was fake with a shoe on it. And then they got mad because they all got fired and we didn't get a chance to defend ourselves. That's
all
that
around
scorched
mess.
right. That's the scorched earth. We'd rather have nothing, right, than be seen as fair. And then, but they felt bad after they were seen as not fair. As soon as they learned that other piece, well, if we knew that, we would have taken that into account. But I'm seeing this more and more, especially with this younger generation. Let's pull that green handle. And you know what? I'd rather nobody have nothing than somebody get further ahead than me.
Well, I know we only have a couple minutes left.
I'll just say it like this. We have to punish high performers. Rich people ain't paying their fair share. We got to punish them. They're not paying as much. Dude, listen, man. I'm paying more taxes than that 20-year-old intern that thinks that aren't fair and screaming for free stuff. And I'm not making this political. This is all about inequity and aversion. They would rather scorched earth, nobody have anything. So this is a certain ideology that everybody has to share in disadvantage. As long as we're all disadvantaged, I'm good with that. We don't want anybody getting ahead of us. And that is running rampant through the colleges of this nation right now. And it all comes back to these studies right here. It ain't about politics. It's about human nature.
Wow.
And we're trying to fight human nature with politics and policy. That's not what it is, man. So now here's the question on the table. And I'd love to hear from you. What your theories on this are. What is that? How can we take this and turn it to and use it to fix problems instead of scorched earth and everybody gets nothing?
That's interesting.
Because that's why people are mad at America, Dutch. That's why we're mad at America. But everybody wants to come here. But the governments of those other countries were the great Satan. But your people want to come in here and get a piece of the great Satan.
That's it. I got about 45 seconds left, but so I don't want to start on a whole new point. But that has been an interesting debate and discussion for decades with respect to how other countries and why other countries feel about us the way they do. So, again, I don't want to start anything right before the break.
So
but that's interesting.
Will you pick that up after break? Because I want to hear your thoughts on this, dude. Because this is mind-blowing stuff right here. It's all just based in science, and we're trying to fix stuff. We're trying to use a hammer when it needs a scalpel or something like that. Listen to the Get Warrior Tough Radio show.